me be clear about this. On the government side, our main aim is to ensure that justice is served. On your side, in these high crime areas, you haven't actually proven to us how justice is able to be served. And that's why we're saying that we want to propose this, because we see that there is an inability of the government, and when the government is incapable to do something, we ensure that we have another setup, another affirmative policy to ensure that this justice is able to serve, and that the government is really fulfilling its role in ensuring that justice is served. Okay, people? So first of all, Isa kept talking about how we didn't provide a yardstick. So like my previous speaker, he already said that the yardstick is that it's temporary. So when the crime rates in these areas are considered as low crime areas, that is when we will consider vigilantism in these areas to be stopped. Okay? So that is our yardstick. So basically, let's look at, before I go on to my points, let's look at what Isra has talked about. His first point was just basically punishment subjected to criminals is improper and all that. But what we have seen today in the entire setup of their opposition is that they are taking it to such an extreme length. They're saying that they're just going to legitimize this, vigilantism are going to be legitimized and killing everybody. We're saying that you have to look at the realistic pictures. That's why we give the example of Mexico in the first place, because we see that it is working, that it isn't at an extreme level, please sit down, Isa, that it isn't at this extreme level that you have in your picture, in your mind, that people are killing left and right, and using, hey, I want to be Superman, I watch Kick-Ass, and they're so cool that I wanted to do this, so I go around killing people. We're not saying that people have the right mindset. The government has to believe in the people, that they are able to do this properly. And even in our own setup, we already said that basically this vigilantism, when they have gone overboard, they are considered as criminals, and they are able to be prosecuted themselves. So we don't see that there is any problem in this. Yes, go ahead.
In 2006, when the bill for vigilantism was passed in Mexico, the crime rate was increased by 12% the following year. Because of that, war happens between these vigilantes and the drug cartels in the first place without the involvement of the authorities. What is your answer on it's working or whatever it is?
Okay, basically, your alternative, you know what, is just improving the police force. But we already told you that the government is so incapable, that the Mexican government is so incapable, there's so much corruption, the lack of law enforcement, the lack of the police force itself is making it unable for us to really carry out and to really capture the criminals. So when this happens, we want to allow these vigilantisms to go out and to ensure that they are able to capture the victims, because like what my previous speaker has already talked about, how the nature of this vigilantism is that they believe that they are able to uphold the laws. So when they are able to uphold the laws, when they go out, when they want retribution for the victims, they want retribution for the people. So when they go out, they're able to do it. So okay, secondly, what I talked about was that, and then now let me go on to my first point. What am I going to talk to you about is firstly is that executing justice, and secondly disincentivize criminals. So firstly, when we're talking about executing justice, so right now under what the status quo is happening is, because they're protecting the status quo, is that there is no justice for the people in these high crime areas. People are being raped, girls are being raped. So then the criminals are able to be walking free with no such form of prosecution, and we don't want this to happen. This is injustice to these girls in the first place. So when these vigilantisms, like we already told you about their nature, is that they do seek for retribution. They will help these girls to find their criminals. The vigilantisms themselves can be considered as the family of the girls in the first place. So we're giving them legitimization to go out and help search for the criminal and bring that criminal to prosecution. This is what we call by serving justice, and we believe that this is what the government is supposed to be the role of the government in the first place. So that's why we're saying that it is proper. Go, Isan.
You agree that the role of the government is to administer justice, but don't you think that allowing vigilantism is a form of governmental negligence, where they don't want to do the work and they just let the people do it for themselves?
But in these certain extreme areas, when we already told you that the nature of these high crime areas is that the government are really incapable. When they are really incapable, they cannot do so many things at one time. You have an incapable government already on one side, and now you're gonna give them even more work for them to try to improve their police enforcement. This isn't gonna work, people, when they don't even have the capability to even ensure that corruption doesn't happen. So that's why in this role itself, like he talked about social contract, the government has to have this affirmative policy to ensure that they are able to ensure that justice is served. Please sit down. And then, please sit down, Arman. And then, so when I talked about the executing justice, is that two factors are basically absent in these high areas of crime. which is firstly is the absence of retribution, like I told you, and also absence of protection. So basically, the government's role is also to ensure the protection of the people. But right now, the government is unable to give protection for the people. So when they are unable to give protection to people, this is injustice to the people. So we're saying that for the government to ensure that they are no longer doing injustice to the people, they should instill this into them, and this will complement the police force to ensure that basically the criminals will be able to be captured, and please sit down, everybody. The criminals will be able to be captured, and then they will be able to be prosecuted in all that. So let me go on to my second point. Please sit down. Is the disincentivized criminals. So right now, in these high crime areas like this Mexico, these drug lord cartels, they're going around with guns. They're doing criminal crimes in the daylight itself. They're like just giving out drugs and selling drugs in the daylight for everybody to see. So what we can see from this is that they're having practically free reign to do whatever they want in these areas. So we don't want this. Why is this happening in the first place? It's because of fear, because of lack of fear for the police, for the law enforcement people. They don't care about, like basically when they see police, they're saying, why should I be afraid of the police? Because they won't do anything. Plus I can just give him, 500 ringgit, and then he wouldn't care anyway, because then he'll just walk away, and then I wouldn't be prosecuted at all for my drug dealing. So basically when there's this lack of fear, justice is unable to be served. So now we want the vigilantism to complement this police force, this law enforcement, and then for them, when they are able to complement, and then basically now the criminals can see that it isn't just the law enforcement, it's just made up of incapable or lack of skills of police force, but also of vigilantism, which will create fear in them. Now they will suddenly be fearful of creating crimes just in daylight. Basically, this is what we want for the law enforcement to really be able to work, and we're saying this is a compliment, not as the government's just using it as an excuse. So right now no longer can basically criminals just be unafraid and just go around, basically drug cartels in Mexico cannot just go around doing drugs and just kidnapping girls left and right, because now they have that fear, and when they have that fear, basically the crimes in these high crimes areas will fall, and that is exactly what we want. And we already gave you the yardstick, that is that the cities, these areas will be considered as lower high crime areas. Thank you very much.